Okay, so anyway, when you look at our infrastructure, since about 2012, with the onset of horizontal drilling, the amount of technology that has really turned our basin, the Permian Basin, into one of the world's premier basins, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. And obviously with that growth means that we have more wear and tear on our infrastructure. And really since about 2012, we have been addressing it. When I first got on the council and we thought the oil and gas industry was in more of a sunset phase and we wouldn't grow as fast, we did not need to spend as much money on the infrastructure as we obviously do today because of that tremendous growth over about really the last 10 years. We went from probably spending, I'd say, a few $1,000,000 a year just on our roads and maintenance, to where now we're spending annually $25 million a year on our roads. And we also passed in 2017 a $100 million bond that also addressed some of the needs to improve our roads and our transmissibility around our community.
Let me ask you this. I talked to your competitor, and he
Sure.
thinks that nothing's been done. He says our roads are in worse shape than they were before.
Well, having an opponent, that's what all newbies will say. I think I probably said some of the same things when I first ran back in 2001. I thought our property taxes weren't low enough, obviously. I was upset with the way the sports complex was handled when I voted for that bond. The whole reason I got on the city council or decided to run and get involved was I thought we were kind of misled because I didn't feel like the council at the time was being as transparent as I thought they should be. We voted on a $40 million bond, and that's what overwhelmingly passed by 60%. But what the council never told us, and what they probably knew, didn't think much about it, was that $10 million was going to come out of the water and sewer fund to develop the whole Scarborough Sports Complex. And that was my impetus for running way back in 2001. So I've seen a lot of change, and I'm just excited about the fact that I've been able, since we started growing, the problem solver that I am, I've been able to create ways, find more money to improve our parks. We've been able to find more money to improve, just our wastewater treatment facility. We created a public-private partnership with Pioneer, something that had never been done before, and we were going to have to make upgrades to that water treatment facility no matter what. So the fact that we were able to partner with them on a win-win situation for not only the city, because we got our upgrades, but also for Pioneer, we saved the ratepayers, the ones who pay for their water and sewer, we saved them hundreds of millions of dollars because of that partnership.
Okay.
You know, we passed a $100 million bond to address the needs that we saw with our roads, and we are continually, through certificates of obligation, keeping our bond rating high. We're able to borrow money at a very low interest rate, and that is how we're addressing all of our infrastructure needs that we've seen over the past 10 years with the explosive growth that we've had. So yeah, I get it. Everybody says that their opponent never does anything, and that's just part of being in a race. So it's not that big a deal for him to say we've done nothing when, in fact, we have been addressing things for really the better part of the last decade. You know, I understand everybody always, they feel like they're being hammered every year on their property taxes. We have nothing as a city, have nothing to do with how appraisals are handled. We have nothing that's done completely by the Midland Central Appraisal District. All we do is get a number. And then we take that number that they give us and we set our rate by that. And over the course of the last really 20 years that I've been on council, I've taken a very conservative approach towards our tax rate. We have never raised, in all the years that I've been on the city council, we have never raised taxes more than about 3% per year. It's actually a little under that, but on average it's about 3% per year. There's been some years where we've stayed at the effective rate because we had years where there was uncertainty. Oil prices tanked. Well, we don't know where we're going to be, so let's keep our rate at the effective rate, or the no new tax revenue rate. And we did that 2 or 3 times over the course of the years that I've been on the council. But the way that I've always looked at it, my philosophy has always been, you never raise the rate any higher than the rate of inflation and population growth. Inflation has always been, you can say nationally, it's run 2 to 3% nearly every year. Midland has grown You know, in the early years, we were probably growing at about 1%. We've grown obviously a lot faster than that over the course of the last 10 years. But the way that I look at our tax rate is and it's a conservative philosophy that the Texas Public Policy Foundation put out years and years ago, that if government only grew at the rate of inflation and population growth, then we wouldn't have runaway taxes. We wouldn't have the Texas legislature decide, because other communities were raising their rates 8, 10, 12% every year, and that's outrageous. Midland has always been conservative. We've always said we're going to do more with less, and that's what we've done. We've always had a conservative budget, and since I've been on the council, our tax increases have been very fair and very small, and we always try to do more with less. And when 2/3 of your budget are just people, that only leaves you 1/3 of what's left in that budget to address your infrastructure. And so it's always a balancing act with tax rates, how much money do you want to bring in versus what are the needs of the community that we need to address. And one of the things that I know some of the folks running for council this year, it was easily for a couple on our council to vote to not raise taxes this year. But had we not raised taxes this year, and like I said, just that small 3% over the course of 2 years, because last year we were at 0, the effective rate, it's about a 1.75 increase when you average it out over the last 2 years. But with that increase, we were able to fully fund our animal shelter, which is a huge deal. We were able to address some of the needs in our fire department with some new equipment. Without that increase, we wouldn't have a fully funded and up and running animal shelter, and we would not have a new ambulance and some of the equipment that we needed for our fire department.
What sets you apart from your competitor?
What sets me apart from my competitor is the fact that I've got more experience. I know exactly what our community needs. I've got 9 grandchildren that live here. I've got three kiddos that all chose to come back. They're all married. They all chose to come back to Midland. And now I want to be able to continue with the work that I've done on our parks. Centennial Plaza was a big private-public partnership that without that, we wouldn't have near the park that we've got downtown. So what sets me apart is the fact that I've got the experience, the integrity, the character, the problem-solving ability, just the pragmatism, and the knowledge, institutional knowledge, to continue to serve our citizens. And my opponent doesn't have any of those.
He does bring up parks a lot. How do you feel about our parks? I mean, obviously, Centennial Park is very nice. How do you feel about our parks?
Oh, well, I can tell you, I was the biggest advocate for passing and redoing the 4B. When we paid off the sports complex, I wanted to use and repurpose the 4B funds to address the needs at our parks. And unfortunately, we were shot down by a few hundred votes. You know, mostly, I hate to say it, but the over 65 crowd kind of got us. And we didn't get the younger families to come out and vote like I thought they would. So I've got grandchildren out playing on all these parks. Just last weekend, I was at Butler, Windlands, and C.J. Kelly. So I know exactly what shape our parks are in, and we're spending money to address all those things. We hope to do another public-private partnership to improve Hogan. We hope to improve Ray's Mashburn Nelms with the certificate of obligation that we just passed a few councils ago. And we're upgrading, I want to say, about 9 neighborhood parks this year. So yeah, parks is a big deal because, like I said, I've got grandkids. I see what the parks look like. I call up to City Hall and say, hey, what's the deal out here at Butler? The kiddos are running around in knee-high hay, basically, and it's like, what are we doing? Well, they missed that park that day. They didn't get a chance to mow it. So we had issues with that, and so I'm constantly looking at our parks, finding ways to improve it, and I definitely want to use the Centennial Park Plaza model in raising more private and public funds so that we can do the same thing out at Hogan. Attracting business?
To Midland.
Well, we've got the spaceport, which obviously designation, which we passed several years ago. We are attracting more and more businesses out to our spaceport, which is fantastic. But really, at the end of the day, the oil and gas industry is our business. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to recruit and retain good professionals, engineers, geologists, folks just driving the trucks up and down the road, transporting our oil and gas out of here to our water. We've got a huge infrastructure that we need to have people here for. And so my first priority is our oil and gas business, and I think everything else will just kind of take care of itself. But until we pull our last drop of oil out of the Permian, I'm not too worried about attracting new businesses to our community.